What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to College Football Talk with Peter Burtnett. In today's video, I'm going to be continuing my series on the top 5 units in college football. In this video, I'm going to be going over the top 5 offensive line rooms in the country going into the 2025 season. I'm also going to be getting a perspective from former Montana offensive lineman AJ Forbes. He was the starting center for the Grizzlies and is now playing for the Indy Freight in an indoor football league. But before I get into it, if you go on to enjoy this video, please feel free to leave a like, consider subscribing to the channel, and turn on those post notifications so you're always up to date whenever I upload. Turning things over to AJ, let's hear his top 5 first, and then we'll get to mine.
What's up, guys? My name is AJ Forbes. I was a former offensive lineman at the University of Montana, where I was an All-American playing center. I now play for the Fisher's Freight in the Indoor Football League out here in Indianapolis, trying to get back into the NFL. I was with the Seahawks for a cup of coffee, but trying to get back. Peter was kind enough to ask me to give my thoughts on college football offensive lines, what my top 5 offensive lines in college football are. So I'm here to do that for you today. Starting off, though, I want to talk about Oregon as my honorable mention to this top 5 list. Looking at my notes here, the talent is there, but the cohesiveness might not be. When you talk about offensive line play, it's really about how well you can play together. It is really the only unit in football specifically that cohesiveness and how well you play together impacts the entire group. They bring back one returning starter. The center is Iapani Lalaulu. I believe that's how you say his name. He's in the conversation for best center in college football. So he's the star. However, Oregon did end up bringing in 3 different transfers. There's only 5 positions on the offensive line, so when you bring in 3 transfers to be starters for you, there could be some cohesiveness issues. You'll hear me say that a lot. They brought in the 3 transfers. They also have a question at right guard. They had a guy who had made 4 starts, I believe, for Oregon last year. So the talent is there. Need to see how well they play together. Number 5 on my top 5 college football offensive line list is Iowa. I don't put a whole lot of stock into PFF, honestly, but looking at the stats, they were easily the number 1 ranked offensive line unit in terms of how PFF grades their players. They were the best unit in college football last year. They returned 3 starters. They have right tackle Jennings Dunker, center Logan Jones, and left guard Bo Stevens. Dunker and Jones are the 2 stars on this group. Left tackle is a question looking from the outside in. I'm sure if you were talking about who they are looking inside the program, those questions might be answered, might not be answered. But left tackle is a question for them. 3 returning starters from last year's top-rated PFF rankings in terms of offensive line play. Number 4, I have Florida. Florida is a group with extensive experience. They return 5 of the 6 players that played at least 300 snaps from last season. Jake Slaughter, again, is in the conversation for best center in college football. He's very balanced in terms of how effective he is in the run game and the pass game. And then we have Austin Barber at left tackle, who has gotten some first-round buzz. So again, an experienced group with two stars leading the way for him. Number 3, we have another experienced group with Texas A&M. Florida had 5 of the 6 players returning who played at least 300 snaps. Texas A&M is returning all 5 starters, with 6 players along that offensive line having at least 300 plus snaps. It is the most experienced group in college football. So looking back at that cohesiveness idea, Texas A&M has it. They return all 5 starters, and they have a 6th guy who can come in and be a depth piece for them. Armaj Reed Adams is expected to be top 5 guard in college football, has an argument to be the best guard in college football this year. So he's going to be leading the way for that group. But again, cohesiveness is a big thing. Texas A&M has it. Number 2 on my list is going to be Utah. Utah has 2 potential first-round draft picks at either tackle spot. We have Spencer Fano at right tackle and Caleb Lomu at left tackle. They're returning 4 starters. Again, that cohesive piece comes into play there. They return those 4 starters. However, they did have a starter, Michael Mokofisi, who is coming back after a season-ending injury after the first 7 games of the season. And then finally, number 1 on my list is going to be Alabama. They have a top 3 tackle prospect in Caden Proctor. He's in the conversation to be the first tackle picked off the board in this upcoming NFL draft. Then they have Parker Brailsford at center, who is really an interesting player to watch if you're interested in offensive line play. He's traditionally undersized. However, he makes up with his tenacity and quickness. He's a really fun player to watch. And then both guard spots for Alabama have really good players as well. So that is my top 5 offensive lines in college football. Thank you, Peter. Back to you, my friend.
Thank you, AJ. Now going over my top 5 offensive lines, and I want to start with an honorable mention. I'm giving an honorable mention here to Florida. I don't think they quite crack the top 10, but they do have probably the top center in college football this year with Jake Slaughter. They also have some veterans, Austin Barber, Najee Harris, and Jamison George Jr. Those are some of the guys that they have coming back that make up a veteran unit there for the Gators. Coming in the number 5 spot, you're going to see a common theme here. It's another SEC team. It's the Texas A&M Aggies. They have probably the top guard in college football with Armaj Reed Adams, and then a couple of other guys that they have, Trey Zune, Chase Brisantis, and Demetrius Crownover. So this is a very experienced group. Mark Naboo Jr. is the starting center, the projected starting center, but those other 4 guys are all returning. The Aggies put up some pretty good offensive numbers last year. They were 26th nationally in rushing, and I think this experienced group with Le'Veon Moss at running back could be a really good group in college football this year. Coming in at number 4 is Notre Dame. Obviously, they have 2 of the top running backs in college football, led by Jeremiah Love and joined by Jadarian Price. But it starts with the guys that are in front blocking for both of them. They've got some really good returning tackles, including Emil Wagner and then Anthony Knapp. And then left guard Billy Schrouth is also a returning starter. Knapp was actually, he's only a sophomore. He was a freshman that started a majority of the Fighting Irish games and really played an important role in what is really probably the most important offensive lineman position, that left tackle position, obviously protecting the quarterback's blind side. So that's huge. Again, like I mentioned already, those guys lead the way for those 2 running backs, and I think that puts Notre Dame kind of among the upper echelon of offensive lines. I mean, they ranked 19th in rushing last year, 10th in scoring. And even though Riley Leonard didn't put up the biggest passing yards, he was protected in the pocket most of the time, and I think whoever starts for the Irish this year, likely CJ Carr, will get the same level of protection. Coming in at number 3 then is Oregon. The Ducks actually only have 1 returning starter from last year, Iapani Lalulu. I hope I'm saying that right. But they also have some guys at guard and tackle who could kind of make a name for themselves. Emmanuel Pregnon at guard, and then Isaiah World at left tackle. Those guys both actually are on the left side. A couple other guys, the right guard, Matthew Bedford, and then right tackle, Alex Harkey. The Ducks had a really good offense last year, obviously, and that starts in a lot of ways with their offensive line. They were the 13th ranked passing attack in the country. If Dante Moore can deliver, if these guys in front of him can protect him, this could be a really good group as well. I mean, a lot of those guys that I mentioned are kind of among the top 10 at their positions, starting with Lalulu. Again, I hope I'm saying that right. But the other 2 guys as well are going to be really important additions for the Oregon offensive line. Then coming in at number 2 is the Penn State Nittany Lions. Kind of like Notre Dame, this is a group that is probably the best rushing attack in the nation. They rank 17th statistically, but I think the 2 running backs that they have are 2 of the best in college football, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. Their rushing attack led the Big Ten last year, and they also led the conference in sacks per game allowed. So they do a really good job of protecting Drew Aller, and there's a lot of continuity there as well. They've got 4 out of the 5 starters coming back, working across the offensive line. Left tackle Drew Shelton, left guard Vega Ione, center Nick Dawkins, the only non-returning starter, right guard Cooper Cousins, and then right tackle Anthony Donko. This is a really good Nittany Lions offensive line, and I think with the guys that they have in the backfield and all that continuity, this is going to be a really strong unit overall, beyond just this offensive line that we're talking about right now, but the offense as a whole is probably going to be among the best in college football. I mean, we've already seen that I had them up there with the number 3 quarterback in the country, the number 1 rushing attack. They got some good wide receivers too, not something to be overlooked, but this is a really good group, especially on the offensive line. However, they're not quite to the level of the number 1 offensive line in college football, and that is still the Alabama Crimson Tide. I say still not because they've always been the top offensive line in college football year in and year out, but over the span of many years, especially during the Saban era, they would get a lot of the best players because they'd be bringing in 5-star players, and that includes the offensive line. At center, they have probably second or third, arguably maybe the best center in college football, Parker Brailsford. They've also got a top 5 guard in Jaden Roberts, and then a top 5 tackle as well in Caden Proctor. So I think you have 3 guys that are probably top 5, maybe even top 3 at their positions, and arguably each of those guys are the best at their positions in the SEC. Except maybe Brailsford. He kind of is going up against Slaughter from Florida. But these 3 guys are really good, really experienced, and it's going to be important for these guys at Alabama as they work in a new quarterback. Jalen Milroe is gone, but you've still got three returning starters, and the other guys on there, left guard Gino Vandemark and right tackle Wilkin Formby. They're going to be likely protecting Ty Simpson and clearing the way for Jam Miller at running back. So this, because they're going to be working in a new quarterback and kind of a new look at running back, Justice Haynes is gone and Milroe's rushing ability is gone as well. But I think they still have kind of the base there that when you have what's probably the best offensive line in college football, in my opinion, there's going to be opportunity for growth. But that is my top 5 offensive lines in college football. Let me know in the thoughts below whether or not you agree with me and AJ, but stay tuned for my next video. It's going to be going over the top 5 defensive lines in college football, but that's all for this episode of College Football Talk. I'm your host, Peter Burtnett, signing out. Peace.